you might be guilty of the following situation. So you told yourself, okay, I want to watch an educational video, maybe on YouTube or wherever. You see the video, you start the video, and it starts getting boring, and because there's not like much like dopamine, maybe there are not many editing or not many cuts, and then you start like scrolling onto the comments, read the comments while just listening to the videos a bit. You already like search for the next video that you can watch. You're not even listening anymore, and then you click on the next video, and then the same thing happens again. Or you might told yourself that you will finish this task that you were like planning to do like for super long time, and you're about to do the task, but in that moment you think, I could do that later, I still have time, and then you push it again towards like the future, to later, say okay, you start other things first, you start things that are easier, or you start things that like give you instant gratification, maybe watch Netflix, maybe scroll on Instagram, watch a YouTube video or whatever, and still not get the task done. Hey, what's up? My name is Dennis and I'm building my business in sales right now because I want to live free and travel the world. Right now we are in Latin America, Colombia, where we are traveling through right now. And yes, here on YouTube I want to document everything, like the whole journey, the ups, the downs, all of my learnings, and of course where we are in the world right now. If this sounds interesting, you can consider subscribing. Let's continue with the video now. So I remember in the past what I had the biggest struggle with, where my brain was working against me, was with reading. Whenever I wanted to read, first of all I hated reading, it was super boring for me, and my mind was wandering off. Like I was reading the page, and at the end of the bottom of the page I already forgot what was standing at the beginning of the page because my mind was wandering, right? So this is the first thing, and at the same time I also made like a stupid mistake that I often had my phone right next to me while I was reading. First of all I was like constantly distracted because I was like, okay, I was checking my phone constantly, so I couldn't focus on reading, and it was super slow because of that. I had the excuse every time when there was a word, for example, and okay, what is the new word? I was like googling the word and like checking this word, and then was like on the phone again on Google, and from Google, okay, switch to YouTube or switch to some other social media platform, and then you're off, and I was ending up not reading very much. And there are two main mechanisms how our brain is working against us. So the first mechanism, or the first thing, is that our brain is usually always at first thinking short term before it thinks long term, right? So we are more likely to act and to have the impulse to think short term without like thinking about all the consequences that will follow from our short term actions. But there actually, I think there's a Harvard study, I'm not sure whether it's Harvard or another university, but there's a study that says that long-term thinking is one of the key attributes of the most successful, the most highly successful people on this planet, right? That the more long-term we think, the more it's likely that we will have success at some point. This is why it's so dangerous to let being run by those impulses. So if we look at some examples, let's say you're lying in bed and the alarm clock is ringing in the morning, and you have the decision between waking up early and leaving the bed, or staying or sleeping for some more hours. What is your first impulse? The first impulse is, okay, often because of the brain, okay, let's sleep some more. So this is like in the very first second, the impulse, right? Or what if we have the decision between like what we will eat, right? Let's say there's fasting for 24 hours on the one side and ordering the pizza and ordering like soft drinks on the other side. What is the first impulse? At least for me, right? The very first thing, okay, prefer the pizza, prefer the soft drinks. Another example, let's say we have the choice between being disciplined and going to bed early, so we are able to wake up early the next morning, or one more Netflix series, right? Or one more Netflix episode, or going out with friends, drinking some alcohol, whatever. Let me sleep a little bit less, but I will still be disciplined enough, and then you watch one Netflix, two Netflix, three Netflix, whatever, or you go out with your friends and spend the whole night and you're up too late, not be able to wake up in the morning. So to some degree we have to fight our brain, or in other words, if we're more precise, we have to fight this very first impulse. And from my experience, though, this little fight that we have like in between us only takes like very few seconds. Like, should I do Netflix? Should I sleep? Netflix, sleep? And then you make a decision. Either it's like the Netflix, or it's the good decision, right, to go to bed early. What happens then is that like one negative decision will not lead to just one negative decision, but to many more negative decisions following. And then those following negative decisions is always like, then there's no fight anymore, no where you really have like a choice, but it's literally like, okay, you have no chance anymore. You always make more and more negative decisions, right? Okay, waking up or sleeping in, okay, sleep in. That's the first negative decision. The next negative decision, okay, I slept in already, okay, I do not really want to clean today. Or the next after that, okay, I do not really wear like the most best high quality clothes. Then you make the next and the next and the next more negative decisions. So there's a whole cascade of negative decisions that follows from this one little fight, and this one little fight will determine if you will have many negative decisions or one positive decision. Okay, so how do we win this fight? So the answer is literally awareness. We have to realize that we have like very few seconds only to win this little fight in between us. So whenever you're in this moment when you realize, okay, your brain is fighting right now, there are arguments against the gym and for the gym right now, and you're fighting, and you're sitting, let's say you're sitting on the sofa, then just what you have to do, literally like do something, like jump up, take your gym clothes and say, okay, I'm in this decision-taking mode right now. I just have to take some action to do something and move forward the right decision, because otherwise I will lose this. The longer usually we think about it, the more likely it is that I will lose this fight and have more negative decisions. And of course, we all have our like different like experiences that we made in this world, right? We have our own like perception, own perspective of things. So for example, what might be very negative for me might be positive for you, or what might be negative for you might be positive for you in 1 year from now, right? Because then your perspective might have changed. You maybe have more information now and you evaluate things differently. So what you maybe want to think about, if you like want to think about starting a new project, doing a new thing, that this new project or new thing is not inherently like negative, but it's inherently neutral, and you are more likely, because of your brain, how your brain works, to only see the downsides and the negative things and arguments against that thing. For example, let's say, okay, you want to start a business, or you think, okay, business, should I start the business? Is it really only that this business idea that you might want to start is super risky, where you have to spend lots of money on it, invest lots of money, spend lots of time on it, and after that it will fail, you lose all your money? Is this really the only outcome that is possible? Or let's say, okay, you see a girl and you really want to talk to her because maybe she's your type and you think she's cute. It's really her rejecting you harshly, everybody laughing at you, you being ashamed, and maybe she having a boyfriend that beats you up or whatever. Is this the only outcome? Or might there be another outcome? Alright, so these were like the two main mechanisms that I think hardly works against us. And what I learned from my mentor about the ego is that the ego in general wants us to, it's not bad, but it wants to protect us, like from not dying. And how the ego tries to do this is by trying to keep us exactly where we are right now. Because the ego says, okay, where we are right now, okay, we survived so far, so this is secure, this is safe, so it wants to keep us where we are. This at the same time means that the ego doesn't want us to improve, the ego doesn't want change, the ego doesn't want us to be successful, because this would mean, okay, we have to leave the place where we are right now, we have to change, we have to do things differently, right? And this is what the ego wants to avoid. Alright, I really appreciate that you watched until the end, and I hope you maybe learned something out of this video and you can get something out of this for your own improvement, or like working on yourself and getting better as a person. Because again, the motto of this channel here is 10 years of hard work for 50 years of freedom, and I want to share my journey here, what the 10 years that I put in, but also I want to build like a community of like-minded people who also want to improve, who want to become better. Yes, and this is the goal. So if this sounds interesting, consider subscribing, and then we'll see each other in the next video. Thanks a lot, buenas noches, hasta luego, hasta pronto.